In 2023, we reached Platinum status in the Marriott Bonvoy program for the first time. We decided to track our experiences with the program in 2024 in an effort to evaluate it to see if it is worth trying to maintain. And in this video, we're going to go over our results. Platinum Elite status comes in the Marriott Bonvoy program after staying 50 nights at Marriott properties in a calendar year. It's a commitment, although you can get credit for some of these stays by holding a Marriott credit card, or even get Platinum status outright by having the American Express Brilliant card. Some of the benefits we'll be looking at are listed here. Specifically, as a Platinum member, you qualify for late checkout, as late as 4 p.m. You can also qualify for room upgrades when available and breakfast at certain brands in the Marriott portfolio. If breakfast is not offered, you're supposed to be offered Marriott points or another amenity. You also get access to lounges at properties where there is a lounge and an annual choice benefit if you stayed to get your status instead of just paying for the Brilliant card. Okay, so why are we doing this? So basically, we want to see if the Marriott brand loyalty is worth it for us. So when you think about it, when you think about being part of a loyalty program like the Marriott program or any frequent flyer program, it does kind of have a cost to it. And what I mean by that is that sometimes it's not the most convenient thing. Sometimes it's not the cheapest thing. And for you to be loyal to a particular brand, you need to make sure that the perks that you're getting are worth that. So for us, there are a couple of factors. First of all, we have credit cards that have sort of competing incentives that would take us away from loyalty. So when you're a member of the Marriott program or most hotel programs, there are things like free upgrades, breakfast, things like that. You also can get that with an American Express Platinum card through their Fine Hotels and Resorts program. Often that gives you credits and free breakfast, late checkout, things like that. The Capital One Venture X has a travel credit on it. And our Delta cards have Delta Stays credits. And we have those to use on Delta primarily, but they do have credits that we feel is in our best interest to use. Now, also, there are, of course, third-party portals and things that you can book through, things like the Expedia One Cash or One Key Cash, I think it's called, program, and things like that. So if we're going to be loyal to a brand or a particular program, we want to make sure that we're getting value from that. If we're going to give up like the 10 times points on hotels that we would get through booking through Capital One or the 5 times booking it through American Express, we want to make sure that what we get in return is going to be worthwhile. So the other thing is the actual like location of the hotel itself and the other alternatives. Sometimes it's not convenient or sometimes it's not really economical to stay in a Marriott hotel when there are other hotels around that might be closer to a train station. They might be a little bit cheaper, things like that. So what we decided to do for this year, we had done enough to earn Platinum status, and we decided to just keep records and to really test it, see if it was worthwhile for us to continue to try to give Marriott our loyalty or be a free agent, as people say, meaning that we just stay wherever's the cheapest and the best in the moment. So as far as our criteria for doing this, we're testing this based on the benefits that we find to be useful. So we're not trying to put a dollar amount on things or anything like that. You can watch a lot of videos of stuff like this where they try to assign a dollar value to upgrades or breakfast or whatever amenity. And those are great, I think, sometimes. But for us, what we really want to do is test the things that we find to be useful, decide if we feel it's worth it. So some of the benefits that we really care about, the most important probably actually to us is the late checkout. So we are often moving a lot when we travel. We stay in one place for a night or two. Sometimes we have a train that's late in the day. We have a flight that's later in the day. And the late checkout is a big thing for us. It makes a huge difference. And we find that to be one of the best benefits if it's something that actually comes through. The free breakfast or the welcome amenity, that's something that Marriott advertises. And depending on the location, that's more or less important for us. But definitely because it's something they advertise, we want to evaluate that because it is something that we take advantage of. Lounge access is another thing. We don't always stay in properties that have lounges, but for the ones that do, I think that's an important benefit for us to evaluate. And then, of course, room upgrades. That's probably the thing that people most think about when they think about loyalty status with hotels. In the United States, you've probably heard or seen, there's a lot of sort of negativity about this chain doesn't upgrade, Marriott doesn't upgrade, Hilton doesn't upgrade. In the United States, unfortunately, a lot of people have status, and so it's something that's a little more rare, but we usually travel internationally. So we were curious to evaluate the use of that for us. Like, how often did we actually get upgrades? Were they good upgrades? Things like that. We don't have to be in suites. We're okay with that. And I feel like maybe we're more realistic and just hoping that we get like a category upgrade rather than to some huge suite or something like that. Another thing that we find important is the annual choice benefit. So that's something that Marriott offers. There's several options for that, which you can see on their website. I won't go through them all right here, but basically we chose 5 nightly upgrade awards because we wanted to try it out. So in theory, that should give you upgrades if it's a property that offers it. And we've heard good things and bad things about it. And so we wanted to test that out. And then we also want to look kind of subjectively at how convenient the hotel location was for us versus a non-Marriott hotel. So, of course, if we're going to use this, and we often use public transportation when we go, we don't really use cabs or ride share and things like that. So it's important to us that our hotel be in a good location. Okay, so we're going to go through these hotels one by one, when we stayed there, how long we stayed, and talk about the benefits and kind of how we use them and what we got out of the benefits of being Marriott Platinum members. So the first Marriott hotel we stayed in 2024 was the Marriott Warsaw Central in Warsaw, Poland. We stayed there in March and we stayed for one night. So we had booked just a regular king room there, and we were upgraded to a corner junior suite, which at the time was the best room that they have listed on their website. The room was great. It had an enormous bathroom, separate tub and a shower, sofa bed. There was a large living area with the sofa, also a table and a chair. And it was just a really good upgrade, probably the best upgrade we've had this year. We got lounge access with that. They essentially had a light dinner with happy hour that was all included. And then the breakfast was on the lounge level the next day. And it was awesome. It was really good. The hotel itself's in a perfect location for us. It was right across from the central train station in the center of Warsaw. It's a nice hotel, beautiful hotel. And we actually left early the next morning, so we didn't use the late checkout. But for us, our final verdict on this, it was totally worth having the platinum status. So the next hotel we stayed in was the AC Hotel in Wrocław, Poland. It was the next night. It was also in March, and we stayed for one night. We were upgraded there to a Comfort King balcony. It was another great room. There was a sofa bed, a table, there was a balcony. Wasn't as big or as fancy as the one in Warsaw, but it was pretty nice. And they did have suites available, at least on the website. It wasn't offered to us, but that's fine. It was a pretty substantial upgrade, we felt, from the room that we had booked. So we were offered points or a $10 food and beverage credit. We were not offered breakfast. That's standard for AC hotels. And Marriott has kind of a complicated list of hotels and which ones offer breakfast and which ones offer food and beverage credit or other things. But for AC hotels, you're generally not offered breakfast. It was in a great location. It was just a few minutes from Old Town, which is kind of where we wanted to be. They did give us late checkout. We didn't test the 4 p.m. checkout, which is one of the advertised benefits of Platinum. But we did stay for an extra hour or so, and they did grant us that late checkout. So for us, again, this one was totally worth it. It was a great upgrade, and we were able to check out a little bit late, which was nice for the train that we were catching. So the next hotel, the Inn at Opryland, a Gaylord hotel. This one I actually wasn't present for. It was my wife on a girls' trip. It was in May of 2024, and it was for 3 nights in Nashville, Tennessee. So there was no room upgrade, which probably is understandable given they were there for CrimeCon and the hotel was pretty full. They did get a welcome amenity. There was points or a $10 one-time one-person food and beverage credit, which they didn't really find to be worth it. So we took the points there as well. They were given 4 p.m. late checkout. So they had an evening flight back home, and that 4 p.m. checkout made a big difference. So for us, I think this was still a worthwhile experience to have the platinum status. It probably wouldn't be in and of itself worth it if every hotel we had was like that, but the late checkout was really nice, and it was a nice perk for staying at a hotel that they would have stayed at anyway. So the next hotel was the Fairfield Osaka Namba in Osaka, Japan, and this was in June for 2 nights. So there we were upgraded from a king to a superior king. It was a little bit nicer room. There wasn't a whole lot of difference actually in the room from what I could tell, but it was a little bit bigger and it was nice. There's no breakfast, which is actually typical of Fairfield in Asia. That's something that here in the United States, Fairfields typically have breakfast. In Asia, they don't. So they did offer a food and beverage credit or points as a welcome amenity. And again, we took the points. In Japan, we like to eat breakfast out somewhere, and so we don't really prioritize that when it's not offered. Technically, there was no lounge in this hotel, but they did have a shared workspace, which is essentially a lounge that had free soft drinks and a happy hour. It was actually, I think, connected to their restaurant, or it was their restaurant use during the day or something like that. We didn't end up using it, but it was there, and we were allowed access to it as Platinum members. This hotel's in a fantastic location near the Osaka Namba station. It's near Dodonpori, which is kind of the famous neon area with all the food. It's near Shinsekai, another great place for food and restaurants. And it's also near Nipponbashi Denden town. So it's a great location. The hotel's quite cheap. Actually, at least it was when we were there relative to the other Marriott properties. And they accommodated for us both a 10 a.m. check-in and a 4 p.m. check-out. So we weren't sure if we'd actually get that 10 a.m. check-in, but we did request it on the app. And it was a lifesaver. I mean, we landed in Osaka at, I think, about 8:30. We'd come from the United States, been awake for 24 hours, something like that. And it made all the difference in the world to be able to just go straight to the hotel and just be checked in and do everything there and not wait for that. So for us, that was a huge benefit. In and of itself made it worth it. The late checkout was also really nice. We were taking a ferry to Beppu, and it didn't leave until 7 or 8 p.m. And so we were able to stay at the hotel until a little bit after 4, I think, actually, which was really cool. And so for us, again, this one was very much worth it. Okay, so moving on, the next hotel is the Chapter Kyoto, a tribute portfolio hotel. We stayed there in June, and we stayed for 3 nights. So we did a video on that. It's a room tour and kind of talked about the area. I'm going to link it in the description below, and also you can check it out with this link here on the video right now. We booked a Superior King room. We did not get upgraded. The hotel actually booked up all the kings and higher rooms booked up shortly after we booked, so it didn't really surprise us that we didn't get a room upgrade. They did have free breakfast, and it was very good. We were pretty happy with that. There's no lounge on site, and the hotel is in a good location. It's within walking distance of the Osaka Shrine. It's close to the Imperial Palace, and it's fairly near the Geisha District. It is a little bit quieter area, if that's what you're into. It's not really part of the hustle and bustle of the more touristy part of Kyoto. So they accommodated for us a 10 a.m. check-in, which again was very useful to us. We had gotten back from Beppu on the ferry at about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and we arrived at that hotel, I think, around 10 a.m., so it was a pretty big deal. They did offer us actually a late checkout. We did not use that because we were leaving for Nagoya in the middle of the morning, but it was definitely nice again to have that early check-in, and in our mind, that was totally worth it. Okay, the next one is the Marriott Associa Hotel in Nagoya, Japan. We stayed there in June and we stayed for one night. So we booked a standard king there. We were upgraded to a twin deluxe room on a higher floor. So the room they gave us and the bathroom were both very large. We did do a video on that as well with a room tour and talking a little bit about the hotel. So please check that out. It'll be in the description and linked here in the video. They gave us points as a welcome amenity. And also the lounge, which was on the 36th floor, has a beautiful view of Nagoya. The breakfast was there and was included. It was pretty simple, but it was pretty good. And they had stuff going on all night. They had happy hour and snacks and things like that throughout the evening. We didn't spend a lot of time in the hotel that night, so we didn't really take part in any of that. But it is available. So this hotel is connected to Nagoya's main train station, and the location's absolutely perfect for one night. So if you get off the Shinkansen, the bullet train in Nagoya, it's just right there. You don't even have to leave the train station, which we found to be very convenient, especially for the amount of time we were staying there. It's a great hotel, and it was pretty cheap relative to especially Tokyo, but even Osaka and Kyoto. So they were not able to accommodate an 11 a.m. check-in for us. We got there and asked, and they weren't able to do that. They did offer us about 1 o'clock, but we were out in the city at that point, so they just held our luggage for us. They did give us a late checkout. We had our train left around 2:15, I think, so I think they allowed us to check out at 2 p.m. We didn't go for the 4 p.m. checkout, but they did let us check out late, which is, again, always really nice. So we were able to go out in Nagoya in the morning and do some stuff and then come back, get ready in the hotel and kind of finalize packing and freshen up and stuff before getting on the train. So that makes a big difference versus like an 11 a.m. checkout where you have to kind of get ready for the day and pack up your luggage and check out and just leave the luggage with the hotel. So for us, that was a huge thing. Again, we find these things really, the early check-in, late checkout, to be kind of the best benefits for us. And this hotel was definitely worth it. Okay, the next hotel is the AC Hotel Tokyo Ginza. We stayed there in June and we stayed for 5 nights. So this one we actually booked on my gold status. I had some free night certificates that needed to be used, so we booked as gold. At check-in, we actually mentioned that my wife is platinum. We gave them her Bonvoy number, and they immediately offered us an upgrade for the platinum, not for gold. They were not going to offer us an upgrade for gold. And they also offered us a food and beverage credit or extra points. It wasn't a lot of points, but we did take those because, again, we like to eat out in Japan, even for breakfast. So we took the points. We declined the upgrade as they only had twin beds, and it was only a higher floor. It was the same room. So not really an upgrade there, but we did have the option to go to a higher floor had we wanted to. So this is one of our favorite hotels. We did do a room tour talking about this as well. Going to link that in the description and here on the video, so check that out if you're interested. Again, we love this hotel. There's nothing really crazy about it. It's just in a great location. In Ginza, it's not right in the middle of anything, but it's a good centralized location near the Higashi Ginza and Ginza stations, and it's close to really a lot of things in Tokyo. So they gave us a 4 p.m. checkout. It was awesome because we had like a 9 p.m. flight, so this worked out perfectly. And again, we were able to go out for most of the day, or at least the first part of the day, come home, get ready for our flight and everything, finalize packing, and then check out and go to the airport. And for us, again, this was absolutely worth it, and it was a clear benefit of having platinum over gold status. So in this case, the upgrade didn't end up being anything too crazy, but it did show that the platinum makes a difference over gold, because in some places in Asia and outside the US, even golds can get upgrades and things like that. But here, it was the platinum status that made the difference. Okay, so here I think it's only fair to talk about times that we chose not to stay in Marriott hotels. In April, we were in Norway, and in both Tromsø and in Bergen. Stayed a couple of nights in each place, and we chose not to stay in the Moxie hotels in either of those cities. Marriott doesn't have a lot of presence in Norway, and in both cases, we just wanted to stay closer to the city center. Neither of those hotels was in locations that is really convenient for us. So we used our Delta cards and used our Delta Stays credit. And I think this is a good example of times when maybe it doesn't make the most sense to make use of your brand loyalty and just to stay somewhere that works better. Okay, so to summarize, looking at the benefit value per region. In the U.S., we've been gold for several years, and at the gold level, we were not even really acknowledged in the United States at check-in. We don't usually stay in higher-end hotels here. It's usually places in small towns, kind of as we're driving in between places. But we really didn't get much value out of gold in the United States. In Europe, we did get a few upgrades when we were gold, but they weren't significant upgrades. On this last trip in Poland, we were 2 for 2 for pretty nice upgrades. And even though it was a little maybe less touristy type country, they were pretty significant upgrades for us. In Asia, we've never been upgraded as gold members before. We haven't stayed in a ton of Marriotts, but we've stayed in Singapore and stayed in Japan before, and probably some other places I'm not thinking. But in our 4 stays in Japan this year, we had 3 room upgrades, and that's counting the offer of an upgrade that we had in Tokyo that we didn't take. We had 2 hotels that gave us free breakfast because of our platinum status. There was 1 hotel with a lounge and 1 that had an area that almost functioned as a lounge in Osaka there, the kind of the common area that we were able to use. And then we were offered the late 4 p.m. checkout at all hotels. We didn't end up using it in Kyoto, but in the other 3 hotels, we did use it, and it was a big deal for us. Okay, so our stats for January through June of 2024. We stayed in 7 hotels. 5 of those hotels gave us or offered us room upgrades. Late checkout was always accommodated when we requested it. We had free breakfast at 3 of the hotels. 2 of them were in lounges in Marriott hotels, and then the chapter Kyoto gave us breakfast. That's consistent with Marriott's advertising, where the AC, the Gaylord, and the Fairfields in Asia do not offer breakfast. There were 3 hotels that had lounges, or rather 2 hotels that had lounges, and then the one in Osaka that was a kind of lounge. And we have not yet attempted to use the annual choice benefit, which I talked about as like the 5 nightly upgrades. We do have a stay planned in LA, where we're going to try to use one of those. We'll see if they accommodate that or not. It's one of the LAX airports, but we haven't used it yet. And part of the reason for that is that we actually wanted to test the upgrade situation without using those certificates or those like nightly upgrades. So as far as conclusions, and again, this is all subjective. We realize that this may not hold true for everybody, but this is kind of our conclusions. So far for us, Platinum has been a meaningful upgrade over gold status in Europe and especially in Asia. The late checkout has been a huge benefit for us. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that was probably the top or the most important benefit for us, and it just makes our travel days so much better and things go so much more smoothly. We stayed in Marriotts that were inconvenient locations for us, so we don't feel like we've really sacrificed location for the sake of status or for the sake of brand loyalty. And when it wasn't convenient for us, we just stayed elsewhere. So in conclusion, I guess, so far, the Platinum status has been well worth it for us. We might feel differently, I think, if we used it in the United States or if that's where we primarily traveled. But for us and for our lifestyle, where almost all of our travel is international, it offers excellent benefits. And actually, our U.S. travel has been sort of a good way to get our nights and our night credits in cheap hotels and things like that will give us that higher status that we can use when we travel internationally. So that's it for us for the first half of 2024 in our evaluation of Marriott status, or Platinum status in Marriott, I should say. We do hope to make a follow-up video looking at the rest of the year. But for now, thanks for watching. We really appreciate it. If you're interested in content like this, or if you found this at all helpful, we would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe and comment below if you have anything to add.